Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Page One Power Academy. My name is Mike Bryant. We're broadcasting live today from Boise, Idaho, world headquarters of Page One Power. That's my mug up on the screen there. Your presenter is Colin Eggleston. He's the director of training here at Page One Power. He directs the training of all of the new folks coming through the wings. He gives them all the inside information on how to become link builders straight out of the gate. And without his training, I don't know what kind of situation we'd be in. But a big part of our team here and a big part of our effort. And he also assists with our training program. So if you'd like to learn about link building yourself, you can sign up for the training program and learn from the best. We have a featured guest today, Thomas McMahon, project manager on the production floor. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
So without further ado, Colin, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you. This is a question that we get a lot from both from our clients on the link building side and my clients that I engage with on the training side, and then of course new hires is something that is very, very important. It's instrumental to learning how to be a link builder and how to execute this at a high level. Site mining, site finding best practices. There's so much. There's hours and hours and hours of really good information that we really could possibly dive into, but I want to concentrate on three specific areas today because mining for target sites can be very daunting, but we do have some tips to kind of help you strike gold as well. So the three areas I want to concentrate on, and these are basically some of the three main areas. These aren't the only tools in our toolbox here at Page One Power, but these are three kind of big main ones, kind of our go-to. So first we have Google search with using advanced operators. It's a really good basic way that's available to everybody. You don't have to pay for a tool. You don't really have to have a lot of technical expertise to really jump into it. And so we'll talk about some best practices there. And then second is going to be backlink prospecting of competitors' backlinks. Kind of going through competitors, not just competitors. We start with competitors typically, but we backlink just about anything, and we'll talk more about that later too. And then finally, I have a quick section on a tool that I really like, provided by Moz, and no, they're not paying us to say that or anything like that, but they have a nice little tool called Follower Wonk. And you may be familiar with it, you may not, but it's a Moz tool. And it's actually relative. It's low barrier to entry for kind of cost and kind of just getting it set up. And there's actually free options for it as well. So we'll kind of tackle all three today with the help of Thomas as well. And I'm so happy to have Thomas here today because Thomas is a veteran link builder and has been here in the business with me. We've almost been here the exact same amount of time, just about.
I think we started in the same month back in 2012 or something.
Man, and it's been an amazing 3 years. And Thomas has been running several teams throughout his tenure here. And so he has a lot of really great insight that we can really draw upon, both in successes from his team and from his experience, and just from interaction with clients as well. So, but before we really kind of move on to site finding, you really have to do something first. You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot start site finding until you discover or create linkable assets. You need to be able to, once you find a site, you need to have something that you're going to then pinpoint and target back and that people want to link to. And so I have a couple on the board. We have guides, resources, statistics, studies, all those great things. But I want to pass over to Thomas just for a little bit and just talk about what are some linkable assets that you like to see when we're working on a client's site.
Sure. So I think the biggest thing to keep in mind when you're thinking of linkable assets and getting links pointed to your sites in a natural way is that you have plenty of non-promotional content. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing we see with clients who go, oh yeah, my site's great, we've got all this great content, but it's all trying to sell you something or getting you to sign up for a newsletter or something like that. And having it non-promotional and informational is huge. If it's informational, providing a resource for people, teaching someone something, it's much easier to send that out to a webmaster or a blogger and get a link to it, or to include a link naturally with an article back to it. Some good examples, I guess, what I've seen. We have a client now who's got a hurricane resource guide, and it's a pretty thorough. They've got infographics up. They've got kind of an emergency like bug out kit that you need to have if you're in that area where hurricanes hit. We've gotten some great links to it. We've gotten links on NOAA.gov and some other local.gov sites and education resources and stuff like that. And it's not selling their service. It's not promoting themselves as a brand too much. It's just, hey, here's what you need if you live in this area, because that's part of their target demographic is in that area. They don't deal directly with hurricanes, but their consumers do. So they're trying to offer helpful information in that way.
And I get this question as a lot with some of my training clients, and just even with new hires, is that if I am a business owner, I want to start link building. My website has 0 linkable assets, so it's just the worst case scenario. I have 0 linkable assets. Thomas, what's something that I can do to create a quick and maybe free or low-cost linkable asset on my site that people would want to engage with?
Well, first, what I would do is start seeing what your competitors have been doing and see what has worked well for them. Because if you just sit alone on your desk and try to think of something, it might sound like a great idea, but you're going to quickly find you're going to put a lot of energy into it. It doesn't get a lot of traction. So I'd see what's worked well in the past, and that follower wonk, which Colin will highlight soon, and competitive backlinking can help you identify those. We can go into some more detail a bit later. But see what's been working well and play to your strengths, right? If you don't know how to make an infographic, I don't have someone in-house, just mark that off the board. Don't even try to tackle it. Informational posts can be great. You can highlight maybe a key influencer in your niche and do a biography on them or something, right? Maybe it's a historical figure in your niche that helped expand it. You can make a great resource about them. There's lots of ways to tackle it, but I try to start first with identifying what's worked well, and then see where you can fill in the gaps with similar content.
That's great, and those are really good kind of low cost, low expenditure type things that you can do. And a lot of these, and really what we're talking about here in a lot of ways, and I have a couple of examples I want to move on to, is this could be something as simple as a blog post.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as a blog post where maybe you cite maybe a government study or a university study, and you can refer back to that. That could be linkable as where you're gathering this information now, because maybe you're citing 10 different studies. So instead of having your users, your readers, go and find those 10 studies in 10 different places, you have them in one place, and they can all be referring back to or supporting a single claim. And you're doing people a favor instead of having them having to track those down. So it could be so simple. So let's look at a couple. So this first one here, this is from Bon Appetit. We have no relation to them or anything like that. That I was just kind of looking for some generic options. So this answers a very popular question on Google: how to boil an egg. And this page is literally a blog post, and it's a blog post with a couple of pictures where they lended their expertise on how to boil an egg. And that's really all the kind of time and investment they put into it. They snapped a couple photos, wrote up the blog post step by step, and now there's thousands and thousands and thousands upon links pointing back to it and kind of helping with the overall equity of the site. The second one here is another really excellent example. Instead of just kind of the blog post route, this is actually a guide. This site, it actually provides free guides to its audience, and I think this is a really good example of very targeted information, targeted content that somebody that is searching for these things or searching for keywords within your industry, that this stuff is going to rank really well for, and they're going to get introduced. The first thing that they see for your site, the first thing that you do with them as far as their brand interaction is you're giving them this free guide on how to build a resume, on how to pass an exam, on how to ace the interview. And so it's you build that trust and you build that equity within people, and if these are literally kind of blog type pages too. And then the final example here is an infographic I believe this is from the World Wildlife Fund as well. Infographics are popular. They're inexpensive to make. You could do them in a variety of different ways, from just paint paint on your computer, or just or if there's several infographic creators. Like, you think of one off the top of your head?
Bengage? Yeah.
I think it is Bengage. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
And there's a lot of really good ones, obviously. If you have a Photoshop account or anything like that, that's always good. Or even GIMP, which is free. Although just note that every command in GIMP is like the exact opposite if you learned Photoshop. So they don't know why they do that, but whatever. So these are three really good examples of linkable assets, and this is somebody's entrance into your site. And so yes, we're all business owners. We want to make money. And so on these linkable pages, of course, we're not just giving away the farm for free. We're not just giving away. So on these pages, we also want to have a little bit of conversion, conversion optimization. So maybe in a tastefully placed area, there's a link to maybe your product section or your available products, or maybe to maybe something that's a little bit more product centered, or if you're a lead gen type site, then maybe it's a enter in an email address to sign up for our newsletter and all that fun stuff. So yes, we understand. We don't want to encourage business owners to just think about ways that they can give out things for free all day. So there's that balance there. Anything to add on top of that, Thomas?
I would just highlight, it's easy to think too broad when you're building a linkable asset. It's easy to think, oh man, I've got to make this huge piece. It's got to cover all these different areas of my niche. Get specific though when you're starting out. You got a specific topic or a specific pain point that your audience is feeling, and address that one thing in a post. Don't try to make it too big or too broad. Just do that one thing really well, and then repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and eventually something will stick.
I think that's really good. And once you build up that wealth of linkable assets, then it's going to be so powerful, and you're going to see some natural links to that. You don't even have to link build for them, and that's the best kind of link building, is that passive income as well. So let's move on to actual link building strategies. So and kind of the final points on linkable assets, they can help inform your search strategy. So we want to, if I am looking for a site that I want to I want to acquire a link from, I want to be able to have something I can communicate to them of value that they would want to link back to, or they want to share, or their audience would care about. So that helps inform your search strategy. You start with the asset and then search from there. And then increase brand engagement, allow you to pinpoint part of your site that gets a boost too, because your linkable assets, a lot of ways, are going to be, with a robust link building campaign over a long period of time, they're going to be, you're going to see more traffic on them, you're going to see links to them, you're going to see social media shares to them, and so that becomes a new entrance to your site. So let's talk about Google modifiers. So this is something that I teach my new hires. This is kind of one of this is like a first couple days sort of thing, because this is a very easy barrier to entry. I always ask my class, I was like, who here has used Google before? Hopefully all their hands raised, but maybe not. Maybe we have some Bing holdouts in the audience. But so I asked them, okay, you've already done site finding. You already know how to site find, but we're just going to teach you how to supercharge it and pinpoint what you're site finding for. So the comparison between without Google modifiers and with Google modifiers is like a scalpel versus a sledgehammer. So the one that I teach first, and I think one of the most important ones, is a time saver. It's a time saver, and it removes erroneous or unwanted results, is the minus sign. So I have 3 examples on there. So if I'm searching for salsa, the condiment, and not the dance, then I would do a minus and then my keyword dancing. Dolphins, if I want to learn about the animal and not the team, then I do football, minus football, and then sharks, minus lasers. It's kind of a fun one, but that's if I want to learn about sharks but not any references to Austin Powers films or anything like that, then you can do that too. Tom's, anything you can throw in on that as well?
I'll just chime in with the minus will work very well with domains as well.
Oh,
so if Wikipedia or Yext is always showing up in your searches and you don't want it to, you can do minus wikipedia.com or minus yext.com or yelp.com, and just have it remove it. I like to have like a little notepad saved with a bunch of different minuses on different domains that always pop up in different search terms, and I can just paste at the end of my search queries, so those just clean out automatically.
And that's so powerful. Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of times you'll see like Amazon.com or Wikipedia, every other search result or every, so you can save yourself a lot of time from searching, sorting through those. The other one, this is kind of the nuclear option. This is in URL colon, and then your keyword goes directly after it, no spaces. So this one basically forces Google. It says, I want you to show me only results that have this keyword in the URL of the site that the site that you're returning. It basically says ignore what's in the body. It may be in the body, it may not, but we want you to just return us results where this keyword is found in the URL. And this can be very powerful because you can tell it to find return only sites that have blogs, return only sites that have the word links in them if you're looking for resource pages. You can narrow it down to .gov or .edu, and things like that. So it's really, it can be very, very powerful. And I have some pictures, some screen caps here. So if I want to do in-URL shark, again, I like to use this example because it's kind of fun, but it's also very emblematic. So we have in this search result, we have in-URL shark, very simple. And every single one of these examples, the word shark is in the URL here. So it gives me, it allows me to narrow down and find exactly what I'm looking for. Because a lot of times, the URL is the most distilled version of the content on the page. And so if they have that word in the URL, then you, with a very high degree of certainty, know that that's going to be within the page as well. And another example there, if I want to find .gov resources, you do in URL.gov and then resource, and you can see kind of a mix here. So it finds resources in the URL as well, but also if you notice in the USA.gov example, it found the resources in the description as well, in the text of the page as well. So I have seen that it will show both of them there as well. So, but the .gov specifically. Thomas, any light you can shine on in URL or kind of best practices as well?
Not too much on what you already covered. It's a pretty basic and expansive modifier. And I guess just the advanced operators is also what you'll find. Yes. The modifiers are called. So if you do a Google search for Google advanced operators, you'll find a whole list of different ones.
Yep. There's a lot, and actually Google wants you to know them. So actually Google has a very great section itself of advanced modifiers, operators, as well, and it teaches you how to get them. So also I want to, if you're looking for scholarship opportunities, this is a good killer combination. If you want to look for specifically if you want to see only schools be kicked back into your results and then outside scholarships, and you can change that around as well. So it's in URL and then the keyword that you want to see in there, and that can be very powerful.
Sorry, I guess I'll just jump back into
yes.
Advanced operators real quick. If you're not familiar with it, Google Boolean operators, Boolean, I believe is how it's spelled. Mm-hmm. Google's based off of a Boolean search engine. That's where you can start combining and or and yes. that kind of stuff, and that's where you'll start figuring out how to make some really good search strings. And I guess some words of advice is don't try to get overly complicated with it. I think you'll find that in URL, in title is a good one. Yeah. Mixed with the minus and then and or will start whittling down to the pages you actually need and want to find, rather than a whole bunch of random Google returns. So.
And that's really good. And the point about keeping it simple, I had a student once say it's like, they called me over like, hey Colin, I have no idea where to start. How do I find blogs about movie reviews? And I was like, well, I would first start typing in movie review blogs into Google and then just go from there. They were trying to do the in URL and the minus and the at and the and the all this or, and I was like, no, just drop in what you're looking for, and just maybe do a couple searches initially what you're trying to find without operators, and then maybe kind of narrow it, pinpoint it down from there. So some kind of fun stuff there. We want to move to backlink prospecting. So the second pillar of our site finding, a site finding house here is backlink prospecting, and this can be so powerful, so powerful, because this is a really great way to get a potentially high volume of really good target sites that are within that we know with a high degree of confidence that they are within our niche that we're trying to build to. So I was kind of looking at the why behind it. So we like to do it because we can identify strategies of our competitors, because we're not all, as link builders and even as site owners, we may not be experts on exactly what our competitors have been doing, or even experts in the field that we're trying to link build for. And so if you can take a competitor's backlinks and you can analyze them and just eyeball them and just see what they've been doing, where they've been linked, who's linking to them, and then the type of content on the competitor's site that's being linked to can be very powerful. You can know the strengths and weaknesses of their portfolio and of their content. So there's a couple ways that we want to start, and I'd like to get through all these first. So we identify competitors. Who are our competitors? A lot of us as business owners and site owners, we know exactly who our competitors are going to be. We have kind of a hit list of people competitors that we want to advance in the search, and we want to get better than them in the search. You want to be able to compile backlink reports. So I like to combine a Moz and a Majestic, or an Ahrefs and a Majestic and a Moz, combine all three of them or two of them together to kind of get the most out of it. And then I sort them, and then I search the master report for usable sites as well, and we kind of smell test them and then move on. So I'll show you a little bit of kind of where that is going. So this is a Moz, typical Moz backlink report, typical Majestic backlink report, and within them, this is where you're finding your sites. You're not Googling, you're not going through, and you're not really doing anything else except for working within these reports. So the first thing that I want us to do is to filter, is to go through and hit the filter button, and that can be very powerful. And it can tell you can filter it by certain keywords. So if I'm looking for where my opponents have been on blogs, if they've been published on blogs or guest posts or anything like that, any sort of content-based links that they've been getting, then I'm going to search for these different words: blog, post, guest, 201, things like that, where it will return dates. You can kind of mix and match, but usually blog will get you a lot of results right off the bat. If I'm finding where people have linked to my opponents on resource pages or links list pages, things like that, I like to look for these types of keywords: directory, maybe not, but listing, index, resource, link, reference, all are pretty good ones to kind of search through and try to find and I'm searching in the actual sheet. So here's a screen cap where I'm searching for blogs, that my opponent has been published on, because then I might want to go and target those blogs and maybe see if I can provide them with content, or maybe I can build a partnership with them and kind of reach out from there. Thomas, what are your kind of best practices when you're backlink mining?
So I like to start, I mainly use Majestic rather than doing a whole combination, just because I can go a little faster.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually site finding in between other projects, so I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to it. But I'll start with Majestic, and then the first thing I like to filter by is trust flow. And that'll give me a very good idea of the highest quality sites pointing to the competitor. I'll kind of vet through those, and I like to, Colin will kind of show you a screenshot of different colors he uses in markup. I like to use green, yellow, and gray. I'll mark a site gray if it's just not really a viable linkable target or it's a bad site, so I didn't know I looked at it. I'll mark it green if it's a site that I think we have a very good chance of getting on now and it's worth outreaching to right away. And I'll use yellow to identify maybe it's a strategy of getting a link that I can't employ right now. Maybe it's a resource that the client I'm working on doesn't have at the moment, or requires additional funds or sponsorship opportunities or just a little something extra. And I'll mark those yellow so I can come back to them and kind of brainstorm ideas of how we can get those links. So then I have, at the end of it, I have a list of green and yellows. Greens are ones I go after now. Yellows are ones that I can go after later, potentially, if it all works out. So I'll start with trust flow, go through those. Then I'll sort by anchor text. And the reason why I do that is because it will show you a very wide, it'll really narrow down how competitors are getting links. If there's a lot of branded mentions, they're more likely to be resource lists or directories or profile links. It's just a URL or just a brand name. If I start seeing some unique anchor text pop up, like long form anchor text or long tail anchor text, I have a better idea that's a blog or an editorial piece of, or editorial link. And then I can also see trends. Like if I saw that they got a bunch of exact match anchor text going to a product page, I know that they probably either did a link building plan with that, and maybe we can duplicate some of it, or maybe it's showing me that, hey, here's a page that they're considering very viable and good to link to. Does the competitor have that same, does our client have that same type of page, and can we go get some of those links if they're worthwhile getting? And then the last thing I'll sort by is the linking to page. So the page that the links are going to on the competitor's site. And that'll kind of give me the same thing as anchor text, but a little more broken down. It'll show me all the links in order going to their home pages and then to all the deeper pages. And I can see then what linkable assets the competitors have to work with. If they're getting some really good natural links and they're all going to a blog piece of content, I might be able to duplicate that content and redo it in a better way for the client. Or maybe the client has similar content that we can go get those links for.
You know, and that's really powerful too. And Moz actually does that. I know I'm not trying to really kind of concentrate on Moz so much, but Majestic does this as well. But I like to go through and I like to backlink a client, run my report in there in Moz or Majestic, and I like to look at their top pages. And it's the same thing on both of those. It'll say top pages are inbound links. And so I like to go through and the homepage and maybe the blog header, homepage. Those are going to be probably your top couple of dominators. But I like to go through and see the top piece of content, the top link to content, the top shared piece of content that's on my competitor site. And then I like to go through and see who's linking to that top content. And then kind of exactly like what Thomas was saying is this is a known quantity that this has performed well for my opponent, for my competitor, then maybe I can take that same topic or a similar topic and improve upon it, and then make it my own and hopefully get some of that traffic as well, and those links as well. As you can see this example, so I with the find, with the find and sort through this backlink profile, I was able to find it in I downloaded it and I did Control F and I'm sorting it, and in basically about 30 seconds, I have 121 blog prospects right at my fingertips. It's so powerful. And that's a relatively low number. I've seen backlink portfolios that are, 15,000, 10,000 lines long. And if you do the search for the word blog, you're going to get in the, triple, maybe 4 digits, maybe 1,000 opportunities or more. And so that really, all those sites with a high degree of certainty are ones that you maybe want to get a link on. Or maybe want to start reach out to. So now it can be so powerful. And then I do like to mark mine green, and Thomas has a great color code system as well. I like to go through as I smell test them, mark them green, mark them red, is the ones that I don't want to target or maybe find maybe less than ideal for getting a link from. Then I was going to move on after that. Any other last word on backlinking?
I think the one thing we didn't potentially cover is finding competitors to actually backlink.
Right. Yes.
And I like to start with kind of direct competitors to the client I'm working on. So the people that are selling the same products or offering the same service that they're competing with. Just because I know that the links going to those are more likely going to send me down the right path. And then as well, then I'll start going into keyword competitors, so sites that are ranking on keywords that the client would like to rank for. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say a really good free tool as well is SimilarWeb. If you go to, I believe it's just similarweb.com, and you put in your client or yourself, put in your client, your own site. You scroll down, and it's on the lower quadrant of the screen, and it'll show you similar sites or similar sites to this what you plugged in. And basically, AKA similar, AKA competitors, basically. If you're selling the same thing, talking about the same thing, they're going to be people you're competing with in that field, and that's a free report.
Yeah, I'll just chime in one more time with another little experience tip I guess I've had is I don't like to dive right into doing Google advanced operator searches anymore because I find that I get lost and it's kind of hard to come up with good terms without any starting point. So I like to start with competitive backlinking. And even if I don't find a lot of sites, I'll probably find a few good examples of pages that I'd like the client to be linked on. And from there, I can go to Google and find more of those types of pages that the competitors have links to. And then I have a good idea of keywords they'll use and in URL and title keywords to use to find more pages like that. And I can start finding more targeted pages faster than if I would have just jumped into Google right away.
Absolutely, and that kind of framing that process and framing that flow. You start with the linkable assets that can inform your Google searches and maybe inform what you're looking for in your backlinking. You find your competitors, you backlink them, and then you use that information to then inform your Google search. So it's this great kind of ecosystem that really kind of helps that perpetuate its own cycle and its own once you get in that rhythm, you can find some powerful sites doing that. The last thing I want to touch on, I know we're running a little bit long, and I definitely want to get to questions as well. Follower wonk. So follower wonk it's a Moz tool, but it can be available to anybody if you connect your Twitter account to it. I have mine connected here. So if I want to look in my niche and I want to find websites, I want to find people's sites that I know are probably going to be legit and good sites, then they're usually going to have active Twitter profiles. So it's a good way to kind of weed out a lot of lesser value sites right away, because this allows me to search Twitter for certain Twitter profiles and bios for certain keywords. So in this example, I chose photography, studio photography, and the way the kind of hack here is if I want to guarantee that all of my results out in my search are websites, that have people that own websites, is I put in .com in the URL section. So if I go to advanced options and more options, then I go into the URL and I put in .com there, then that's going to guarantee me that everyone's going to have a website. And let me show you in this example here. It's a little bit hard to read, but I highlighted all the ones that have, all my results here do have a .com, do have a website. Now, if you do the exact same search, studio photography, without adding in the .com there, it's not going to. You're going to get things that are all over the place. People that just have Twitter accounts that don't have websites and all that stuff. And that's not as valuable necessarily.
Yeah.
Have you kind of had experience with follower wonk, Thomas?
A little bit, not as much as you, I don't think. Another tool we use though is BuzzSumo.
Yes.
Internally,
yes.
And that's a similar product to follower wonk. But it's also great for the same kind of purpose. I don't know exactly what the pricing structure is for both of them off the top of my head. But with BuzzSumo, you kind of do the same thing. It's also great for finding competitors' linkable assets, the competitors' content that have done really well on social or with backlinks too. So yeah, BuzzSumo and follower wonk are two great tools to use for that.
Excellent. Good, and that concludes the site finding portion of it. Mike, if I want to move on to the Q&A section, get some questions going.
Yeah, we'll get that started here. I'm going to push out a poll question before we get into the Q&A. So at this time, if you guys want to just go to the question tab on your screen and add in a question, anything that's been on your mind or projects you've been working on, and anything link building related. Doesn't have to be specifically this topic, but we'd love to get some questions from you. And one moment here, let's take a look.
Yeah, it looks like the poll question is
magically disappeared off of our screen.
I think it's off site finding. It's off site finding. So we will look for it there.
There we go.
There we go.
I got.
Okay. I think we found it here. Technology is great.
Nice bunch of questions coming through. And
Where's PPC?
we are recording this webinar, so we will have
Yeah.
a copy available within 24 hours. Look for the link on our website tomorrow, or just go to our YouTube channel, Page One Power, and you can see a copy of the video there. Here we go. So Tony K, he's got the first question up. He says, can you link to the infographic builder mentioned? Is that,
do that right here? Is that I can tweet it too, if that with a hashtag P1P webinar. Is that what we're using?
yeah, if you want to, Colin, you can go ahead and type in an answer. Or,
Yeah.
That wasn't a question that we wanted to say out loud, but Tony will get you that answer. Along with all the other detailed questions, we'll get answers back to you via email. And appreciate you submitting those as we go along here. And let's see.
Another question.
Go with that one from Mike Murphy.
Yeah. So Mike Murphy asks, can you combine interwebs.edu with a negative modifier? That is, I have experimented with that. What I would do is make sure that the negative modifier is to the right of the in URL instead of before it. So you don't want to do like -sharks and then interwebs.edu. I prefer to have that on the right hand side of that. So that it kind of picks that up. It usually will act upon that a little bit better. But yes, you can combine those. You can combine several of them. You can really do almost all of them at once before Google really starts to break.
So Craig Walton, he says, once you've identified a site that is a good prospect, how do you reach out to it? Great question, Craig.
That's a really good question.
There's so much. Thomas, go
I
ahead.
think we get this question every time we do webinars. How do we outreach to people?
Yeah.
We primarily use email. We try to always find a personal email address if we can to the site owner of the prospect page. And basically we just try to be really upfront and honest. We'll just say, hey, I saw that you had this resource page. We always try to make sure that we tell the website owner what page we're looking at to get a link on, because it might be a big website. They might not know exactly what you're talking about. So like, hey, I see that you have this page. I saw that you had this content. We would love to be featured here. Obviously, I'm filling this in with more info and actually typing out an email, but for a generic template kind of thing, you just want to make sure that the website owner knows what page you're wanting to get a link on, and then what content you have that you'd like to get a link pointing to, and why it belongs there. So it might be, maybe they're listing services for weed removal and your client does weed removal. So you want to highlight, hey, I saw you're listing weed removal services. Here's another one I think could serve your audience well. It varies, but really just a personal email that isn't a template and speaks to the value of why the link should be on that page.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also been known to outreach via social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. I think that's also something that could be powerful, that we often just go to email as our default, but if you reach out to somebody via social media, a lot of times you'll get you might get a faster response than just an email, because the emails can get lost in an inbox, but social media can sometimes grab your attention faster. Let's address this other question sent in by Anne. And she asks, we're mentioning high authority sites in our blogs with links to them. Is this helpful in getting our pages ranked? I think that it's a good practice in general to associate linking your site to higher authority sites, and it's also good for readers and good for people that you want to provide them good information. As far as promising, if everybody does this, will this get you ranked better? Not necessarily as far as like direct cause and effect, But I think it's just a really good best practice. What do you think, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I'll parrot what Colin just said, but make sure you're outreaching to those authority people and letting them know you featured them.
Yeah.
They might get a ping back, but if not, tweet to them, email them, just say, hey, just want to let you know we featured you here. Love what you're doing. Keep it up. And who knows what might happen. They might give you a thank you tweet and share your content out. They might link to it even, which we've seen happen. You can almost treat it like a little bit of ego bait for them. And that can be a great way to get some authority links pointing to you.
Yeah, because how fun is that if somebody reaches out to you and says, "Hey, Colin, I really liked your thing on this, and I quoted it in my article, and I'd probably be over the moon. I might tweet it out. I might at least tell my mom, and all that fun stuff. So that's a good practice. Like, keep it up. And I recommend if you're not doing it, start doing it. Another question from Juliana. What are your thoughts on link outreach emails? How personal should you be? Any tips? This is going to be, this is one of my favorite sayings is you ask 2 link builders the same question, you'll get 3 opinions. And this is totally a case of that. So how personable should you be? Any tips? As far as outreach emails, honesty, be honest, be upfront, and draw from your own experiences. Don't talk about something that you maybe have or haven't done. Don't claim any education or don't be like, I'm an expert and I'm an expert and I have a PhD and I would love to write for your site, or I'd love to, I think that this should be a really good resource. I would keep it honest, and as far as personable, you can definitely be personable, but I always tell people, lead with the question first, lead with the favor, lead with the ask first, so you can say something like, hi, I'd really like to write for your site. I'd be interested in publishing a post on your site. I think you have a really great set of resources here, and I think your pages are really funny, and your content is really funny. I'd love to hear back from you. Have a great day. That is an outreach email. That is 100%. That could be the entire email, and it sounds so much more genuine than the other way around, where it's like, hey, I really like your site. You have really funny pages, and your content is great. Oh, by the way, can I write for you? I'd really like to write for you. So you don't want to butter them up and then ask a favor. Just ask the favor and then talk about how you like their site. What do you think, Thomas?
I mean, I think you covered it. Yeah, I mean, I'm always I like to be personable. I like to crack a joke if I can, but I like to address my audience, right? If I'm outreaching to a personal blogger who's running their site, I'll be a lot more personable in my outreach. If I'm outreaching to a .gov where I don't know where the email's really going, it's just a generic email, I'll be very terse, so not rude, I'll just be to the point, won't have any fluff in it, and I'm addressing the audience. If it's a high-end business blog, I will tailor my outreach to the person I think is reading that email.
Absolutely. So another question you wanted to...
Yeah, so this is... You want to read that or something?
How would a small blog, i.e. not one of the largest in the food niche, successfully put out a piece of content titled How to Boil an Egg? And this is by, I guess, anonymous. But it's a really great question.
Yeah.
Thomas,
So this is where I'll go back to being specific, right? A lot of people have published How to Boil an Egg, but make it unique. How to boil an egg at altitude, how to boil an egg camping, all different kinds of scenarios that people need to boil an egg in and don't know how to do it. How to soft boil an egg. That's something that takes more skill than you think to do it well. There's lots of ways you can tailor it to get more specific. And then you can even allude to some of the, the Bon Appetit article, saying, hey, for a generic one, read here, and then you can let them know. There's a really good infographic on boiling eggs, actually, now that I think of it, and it covered all different kinds of temperatures, and it was very thorough and scientific. That's another way to do it. You take a very simple approach and completely expand upon it, right? Rather than getting specific, you're taking that original How to Boil an Egg and really breaking down every exact temperature from 100 to 300 degrees and what it does to that egg. So then you're hitting a little different audience, but you're still expanding on that same topic.
The other thing too that I like to talk about with my clients is on the how to boil an egg niche. If they have a small blog, not everybody has the biggest blog in the world, and if you can make it relevant to your niche, as well. So like if I have an adventure, like outdoor, clothing or equipment client, and they maybe want to kind of get in on that how to boil an egg action, or they want to get a popular blog post, then kind of link it back to their industry. So like how to boil an egg on a hatchet on a mountaintop, like that, and then you can kind of make it relevant and talk about your gear and talk about your industry. But yeah, make it start with the short tail, how to boil an egg, and then maybe add long tail words onto it, and then make that content your own and unique. Or this is tougher and longer term, but write a better article. The Bon Appetit one is by no means perfect. The Bon Appetit one of the only reasons why it's ranking, of course, it's a well-known brand and all that fun stuff, but one of the only reasons why it's ranking is that they have that brand equity, but they might not be giving the best advice. So if you're able to take what they have and be like, no, well, that's not how you boil an egg. This is how you can do it 10 times better. And over the longer term, if you're able to get social shares on that and get more traffic to that, then that's going to rank more naturally, and then you can see yourself dominating the Bon Appetits out there because your article is frankly better. And Google's overall intent is always to show the better result, not the most popular result, not necessarily the most, the result of the most authoritative site, which sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. Because if you Google right now how to boil an egg, the top result is Martha Stewart, and I think there's a couple other ones in there, but I think like the number 3 result is something that's not really, wouldn't even be considered, one of the most authoritative sites in the world, but it has good information. So that's the other kind of daring, high risk, way to do it, but it's definitely possible.
Well, that's all the time we have now for the question. We appreciate everybody submitting, and we've got a lot more questions that came through, and we will reply back to those individually via email. So thank you very much for your participation. We've got a poll question up on the screen right now for those that are interested in our link building training program. We do customize a syllabus based on your business needs and based on your link building needs. And we can give you specific training to help you get done exactly what your goals are and achieve the best in your link building efforts. So we'll let that poll go just for a little bit longer. And once again, thank you for your time today. We're here in Boise, Idaho, and it is time for lunch. But join us next week. Head on over to searchenginejournal.com, go to their content marketing tab. Register for the webinar. Two of our brightest minds are going to be participating in a webinar at Search Engine Journal next Wednesday.
It's our 3rd and 4th brightest minds.
Yeah. Yes, because 1 and 2 are right here in front of us. Good point. Good point. But once again, thank you very much for joining us. Follow us on Twitter. Like I said, the video recording is going to be on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So that's just YouTube, Page One Power. Any other questions, just give us a call, send us an email. Thanks again, folks. Have a good day.